We've often talked about what an experienced shipyard brings to the table when launching a new boat. We've also talked about the value an experienced owner brings to the table when building a new boat. We've yet to do a boat though where we've taken something like Privilege Marine and the experience of a serial boat owner over the last 3 decades, paired them together to build the ultimate cruising catamaran. Today we're going to go on board Guanahani, a 2020 Privilege Euphoria 5. Without a doubt the most spec Euphoria 5 ever built, and quite frankly, one of the nicest, most thought out and detailed oriented power catamarans I've ever been on in my life. My name's Wiley Sharp with Catamaran Central. Welcome to the Dominican Republic. You've heard me say this time and time again, that having adequate storage on any cruising catamaran is incredibly important. That's no different being a sailing catamaran or a power catamaran. And on board the Euphoria, it all starts up here in the forepeaks, which are both fitted out as very large storage lazarettes. So another thing you've always heard me talk about while on a cruising catamaran that's blue water capable is more than adequate ground tackle. The fact that this is a roughly 50-foot catamaran and has a 100-pound ultra anchor on board really tells you that the owners have put attention to every little detail in setting up this perfect blue water cruising power catamaran. And as we make our way up the centerline steps of the Flybridge, it's worth noting the 9 opening hatches for the owner's stateroom, which just gives it a lot of natural light and tons of ventilation throughout the space. From here, we're going to make it up to the Flybridge, and this is one of the more unique features or more unique access points to the Flybridge coming up centerline. The Flybridge is divided into 2 very specific spaces. We have the helm starboard forward, and we have this massive U-shaped settee that wraps around the entire beam of the Flybridge. These seat backs are at the perfect height, 6-inch closed cell foams, custom built for this boat. And because of the Suntex material that's used for all of the exterior soft goods, I don't think you could hurt these cushions. Another thing that I absolutely love about this Flybridge is not just the sun protection, because we've got more than adequate sun protection from the hardtop as well as the bimini extension, but also the ability to fully enclose the space. No matter how inclement the weather is, you can safely and comfortably drive from up top. And you know what, if music's your thing, just like it is mine, having a JL audio system installed really bumps. Over here on the port side, we've got a wet bar. Below that, we have a cockpit refrigerator as well as storage. Now, one thing I want to say that I love about Privilege is, and you're going to see it in every facet of this boat, is the attention to detail. The fact that instead of just using a composite door, a French woodworker built this custom door out of teak, and it will only fit in this space on this boat. This is a handcrafted yacht built in the old shipwright world way. In most production catamarans, a teak table is nothing but thin teak veneer over marine ply. On the Privilege catamaran, you'll see it also when we get down to the cockpit, this is a solid teak table that you just simply can't recreate unless you go this route. So one of the things I enjoyed most about this helm arrangement when we took her out this morning were the helm seats. I love the fact that they're bolsters that also rotate down to seats. So depending on where you're navigating, if you need to stand up for better visibility, if it's rough, or if you just want to chill out, you've got the capabilities of doing that all with these custom 2 helm seats. On the inboard side of the helm, we have a full suite of Raymarine Axiom electronics, which has not just radar, but AIS. We've also got wind data and depth sounder there. Just below the oversized chart plotter, we also have the retractable side power bow thruster. Now, where this system differentiates from a lot of the other bow thrusters we've talked about is it's not a tunnel thruster, it's a retractable bow thruster. By not putting a tunnel in the hull, they're actually able to move the thruster forward, giving you a far better pivot angle than you find in a traditional tunnel thruster. Starboard of that, we have the Raymarine autopilot control. We've also got an additional unit for the multiplex system, and below that is the spotlight. Now, I know spotlight is a very simple, idea. It's just a spotlight, The owner of this boat said that he has found it incredibly valuable while cruising around here, particularly when doing overnight passages. And outboard of that, all of the Yanmar displays. And as you already saw, we have great access to the foredeck from the centerline steps, but we're gonna go ahead and make our way down to the cockpit through this spiral, teak, and stainless staircase. Coming down this staircase, you've got good grab rails everywhere. But before we talk about this portion of the cockpit, let's come back to the stern, talk about some of the unique features found here on the Transom. First thing I want to point out is just the stainless rails. And when you're coming up to the boat by tender or med moored, you've got grab rails everywhere, making this boat just incredibly safe and secure. Over here on the port side, we have the first of 2 mechanical spaces on board the boat. This one is equipped with the upgraded 370 horsepower Yanmar diesels, which are incredibly fuel efficient, as well as will push this boat over 20 knots if you're looking for a fast cruise. We also have the Bower dive compressor and the water maker. Now the unique thing about this water maker is it's a desalinator duo. You can either run it off the 12 volt on board the boat or off the AC power. And just aft of this walkway are these large davits, which we were out in some pretty rough conditions today, and this Highfield 360 did not move, did not budge. In fact, while we were sitting inside filming, I wanted to get a sense of what kind of noise came off the boat while hitting into some pretty big seas, and the thing was rock solid, no creaking, none of those noises you become accustomed to when you spend a lot of time in a production catamaran. And then over here on the starboard side, we have the second mechanical space, which houses another Yanmar diesel, as well as the Onan Generator. And of course, we have these large, wide sugar scoops, gradual steps from the bridge deck level down to the water is a seamless transition. Making our way into the main portion of the cockpit, one last thing I want to point out is a set of lower Yanmar controls, which is ideal for stern to mooring. There's so much going on in this well-defined and well-thought-out cockpit that it's hard to know where even to start, so we might as well just jump into it talking about the enclosure. So just like the Flybridge, there's a set of curtains that goes all the way around the cockpit here, allowing you to enclose the space. And this cockpit has more than adequate storage, not just under these 4 lazarettes underfoot, but also in this aft bench seat, as well as over on the starboard side underneath the L-shaped settee. There's also even bottle storage built into the table, which I feel like is the perfect place to set up a beach club type atmosphere with a couple of bottles of rosé while hanging out at Staniel Key in the Bahamas. Adjacent to the table is the outdoor kitchen, which we'll talk about in a moment, but I just want to pause for a minute and look at this stairwell up to the Flybridge. I mean, the thought, the attention to detail, just the way that it slopes and curves down, it's truly a piece of art. And there are pieces of art like this all throughout the boat. I mean, that is why a Privilege is like no other catamaran you'll ever own. Just on the outboard side from the staircase, we have the outdoor kitchen. We've got an electric infrared grill underneath the cover here, as well as a pop-up light giving you additional lighting for when you're cooking dinner at night. Coming into the salon, just another area on the boat where you can see the attention to detail and all of the woodwork. I mean, this is not a mass-produced boat. All of this high-gloss Alpi walnut interior was custom built for this boat. So here in the salon, I want to start in the port aft portion of it, which is really the control center, the brains for this whole boat. We've got a lot of things going on here that I just want to talk about briefly. First thing is we have the screen for the multiplex system up here, which has been reported by the owner of the boat as being incredibly reliable and absolutely trouble-free ownership, which I've dealt with a lot of multiplexes on a number of different production boats, and you can't always say the same thing about that. So he's been very, very happy with this setup. Below that, we also have another Raymarine Axiom hybrid touch unit. You know, this boat was built to travel, and that's what these owners do. They travel, they go up to the Bahamas from the Dominican Republic, all the way down to Martinique and the Grenadines in this boat. So this is a passage-making boat. And so being able to look at what's going on without leaving the salon while underway, particularly at night, is not just a safety feature, but it also gives you peace of mind, in my opinion. Above that, we've got the water maker control, as well as the remote start for the Onan Generator. And then below that, we've got the upgraded Fusion head unit, which we've already talked about the JL stereo found on board this boat, which sounds quite nice. And then to round it off, we have a Raymarine VHF handset down here that pairs with the handset up at the helm. Moving forward from there, we get to the galley. You guys know that I'm a sucker for a good galley because I love to cook. And so having this large U-shaped galley really gives you not just a lot of prep space, but a lot of space to do your dishes and clean. Or if you're like me and you hate doing dishes by hand, you go all the way forward to the Miele dishwasher, which another nice little detail on it is they match the wood veneer to the Miele to everything else in the cabinetry, so it really just blends into the space. From a culinary standpoint, we have tons of storage here in the galley itself. We also have an induction cooktop and a convection oven, and the first of 3 interior cold storage units on the boat. We'll talk about the other 2 in a minute. Moving over to the starboard side of the salon, we've got a large L-shaped settee all the way starboard forward. This is the perfect place to sit back, have a coffee, read a book, or just get a break from that Caribbean heat. Now, before we make our way down to the staterooms, I will point out the U-line ice maker here. And then I'll point out the 4K television here on the outboard side. Making our way down the starboard companionway, we're going to check out the first of 2 guest staterooms on board Guanahani. Just like every Privilege, this boat was built custom order for the owners. In lieu of doing twin berths or a smaller full-size mattress, they opted for a queen-size berth. There's more than adequate storage in the guest staterooms, both under the berth and on the inboard side storage. Moving forward from there, also on the inboard side, we have the separate shower stall, and adjacent to that, we have a full head with vanity, mirror, and additional storage down below. Being a Privilege owner's version, the second guest stateroom on board is actually the port aft side, so we'll make our way across the salon to check out that identical cabin. Moving forward from there is where things start getting really interesting in this layout. One of the first things you'll see as you're making your way forward on the outboard side is an additional refrigeration unit as well as a freezer. Continuing forward from there, we have a series of hanging lockers on the inboard side, giving the owners of this fine vessel more than enough storage regardless of where they travel in the world. Passing through the next bulkhead forward, we step into the master stateroom. All the way forward, we have a walk-in closet. And then moving inboard from there, we've got a couple of steps that brings us up to the king-size walk-around berth. And if you look overhead, you'll see not only a lot of natural light flooding the space, but more than adequate ventilation with all of the overhead opening hatches. One of the nicest staterooms of any catamaran, be it power or sail, in this size range. A couple steps from the sleeping quarters brings us down to the owner's stateroom head. First thing you'll see on the inboard side are his and her sinks with vanities that also have integrated storage built into the space, just making it feel even larger than it already is. Continuing aft in the starboard hull, we'll see there's additional storage both on the inboard and outboard side, as well as the factory installed washer dryer combo unit. Now, one small detail about this washer and dryer that's worth mentioning is, in most catamarans in this size range, it's a 7-kilogram washing machine, which is not adequate for doing your linens and beddings. The owners of this boat opted for a 10-kilogram unit, which is large enough to do all of the linens on board, meaning they never have to waste time in a marina laundromat searching for quarters. So the owners of this boat, they do a lot of cruising from here up to the Bahamas or to the Eastern Caribbean. So being able to cover large distances is very important to them, and doing it efficiently is equally important. At 9 to 10 knots, they're burning 4 gallons an hour on the upgraded Yanmar diesels. At 16, 17 knots, you're looking at a 20 gallon an hour burn which is exponentially better than anything you'll find in a comparable V-hull motorboat. And as you can see from the drone footage that we captured this morning, the boat is just beautiful as it cuts through the waves. This boat represents a lifetime of boat ownership experience delivered by the only shipyard in the world that could develop this quality of a product. Guanahani is without a doubt the nicest power catamaran in this size range I have ever been on. If you have any questions on the boat, you owe it to yourself to reach out, leave a comment down below, shoot me an email, because if you're in the market for a power catamaran, I truly don't think there is a better boat out there, not just today, but arguably ever. On behalf of myself and my beautiful bride, Laura, thank you so much for your continued support.